boot slammed into the back of an old man's knee. He did not fall. A second boot kicked the laundry cart out from under his hands. He still did not fall. 14 men stood in a half-circle around him in the prison laundry room, blocking the only door, smiling the way men smile when they think the fight is already over. The biggest one stepped forward and pressed a sharpened toothbrush handle against the old man's throat. The old man did not blink. He did not raise his hands. He looked the big one in the eyes and said one quiet sentence. The big one laughed. His crew laughed. The cameras in that corner of the laundry had been broken for 9 days. Nobody outside that room knew what was about to happen. His name was Walter Cobb. He was 63 years old, and every man in that circle was about to find out who he really was. Stay with me on this one. Walter Cobb walked into the prison the way most old men walk into a clinic. Slow, shoulders down, one hand carrying a thin paper bag of his belongings, a pair of reading glasses, a photograph of a boy of about 17, a small wooden cross his wife had carved before she died. That was all he owned. The guard at intake looked at the paperwork twice. 8 years. Vehicular manslaughter. No prior record. 63 years old. The guard shook his head and stamped the form. He had seen a lot of men come through this gate. He had not seen many that looked this calm. They processed him fast. Photograph. Fingerprints. A shower under a bored guard's eye. A change of clothes into prison blue. They handed him a thin mattress, a folded sheet, a cup, and a number. The number was 47,318. He repeated it once under his breath the way a soldier repeats coordinates. Then he picked up the mattress and followed the line down the long corridor toward Block D. Block D was loud. 2 tiers of cells. Iron stairs. Men leaning on the railings, calling things down, sizing him up. Walter did not look up at them. He looked at the floor. He looked at the cell numbers. He counted the doorways the way a man counts paces on a patrol. 8 doors down on the left was cell 14. That was his. His cellmate was already there. A small, thin man in his 40s named Eddie. Eddie had been inside 11 years for a robbery that went bad. Eddie sat on the bottom bunk and watched Walter set down his mattress on the top one. Walter did not speak. Eddie did not speak. For a long minute, the only sound was the buzzing of the fluorescent light in the corridor. Then Eddie cleared his throat. He said, "You the one they're talking about?" "The vet." Walter folded his sheet. He said, "I'm the one." Eddie nodded. He said, "You know about Diesel." Walter said, "I'll find out." Eddie said, "You'll find out today." Now here's the thing about Walter Cobb. He was not in prison because he had killed anyone with a car. The accident on Route 12 had been his grandson's. The boy was 17, had been at a party, had taken his grandfather's truck without permission, had hit a man crossing the road in the dark. The boy had panicked. He had driven home in tears. Walter had been sitting on the porch when the boy pulled in. Walter had not asked many questions. He had looked at the front of the truck. He had looked at his grandson's face. Then he had told the boy to go inside, take a shower, and go to bed. Walter had driven the truck back to the spot on Route 12 himself. He had sat in the driver's seat with the engine off until the deputies arrived. When they tested his breath, he had been drinking 2 beers earlier on the porch. Enough to register. Enough to take a fall. The boy was the only family he had left. The boy's father, Walter's son, had died in Afghanistan in a Black Hawk that came down outside Kandahar. Walter had raised the boy alone after his wife passed. He had promised his son's grave